Well, I got to get this out of the way. Rumor has it you had dinner with Larry Ellison. I mean,
Yes,
is that for real?
it is for real.
I
It is
want to know
for
every
real.
single detail. You know, it's no big deal to me. I mean, I have those kind of dinners every single day. But
Yes, yes, me too.
audiences
Me
that would
too.
probably.
Yeah. So, Larry called me up and said, "Hey, you want to have dinner?" I said, "I'm supposed to talk to Omid today. Let me check and see if it's okay with him first." Out of the blue, I got a call from my contact at Oracle. She said, "Hey, Mark, Larry Ellison is going to have a dinner, and he's going to invite some of your counterparts over for dinner. Would you be interested in joining us?"
Schedule.
And I'd be interested in that. So I think there were about 4 or 5 of these companies similar to Grid Markets that Oracle had identified. The founders of these 4 or 5 companies converged on, I think it's called Billionaires Row or something like that. This hilltop in San Francisco that has this spectacular view of the bay, and we were shuttled up there in this highly secure manner.
Oh my God!
didn't have hoods on our heads, but kind of close to that. And we got out of the car and walked into his house, and it's just stunning. I mean, it's spectacular. And then, of course, as you walk through the house and you get to the back side of the house, which is the part of the house that's facing the bay, you see the Golden Gate Bridge, and you have a tremendous commanding view of the city. It's
So it
really
is like in the movies.
Yes. And his house is full of incredible art, Monet's like hanging on the wall, and just it feels a bit almost like it's a personal museum. It is a personal museum. So we're having cocktails. Larry isn't there yet, and the other founders and I are getting to know each other, and the Oracle people are mingling with the founders and so on. And I think there's more waiters and waitresses walking around than there are actual people. So we're standing there, and somebody's constantly handing you an hors d'oeuvre or a new drink, and it was a bit overwhelming. And then after about, I don't know, an hour or so, there's this hush. Something's happening. You could tell, and people, the staff in particular, started organizing and lining up and getting quiet. And so the rest of us were observing this, like, what's happening? and so the word arrives that Larry is on his way. He'll be here soon. Oh, and by the way, had to take your shoes off because he's very he follows very traditional Japanese ways. So you have to take your shoes off in the house. You have to put those away. You have to wear proper slippers. And so we're walking around.
Beating yourself up. You go, why did I put on these socks? I mean, for God's sake.
Yes. Inside the house, I should mention, there is a Japanese garden. It's walled off with glass and really quite cool. So anyway, he comes in, and we're assembled in this living room area that to the right of us is the bay. So in front of me is this fireplace, and my counterparts are sitting at in couches around in this room. And and he comes and he sits down in front of the fireplace, and he says, "So, what do you want to talk about?" And then for 2 hours, we have this incredible conversation with him about everything. He's giving his opinions and reacting to all sorts of questions, random questions that people are throwing at him. Some are business oriented, some of them are not. And he talks about what his day is like and what his views of the future are, and he talks a little bit about Oracle and where the company's heading and that sort of thing. I'm not exactly sure how old he is. I know he's up there, but he is so energetic and so vibrant. You couldn't help but come away from that and being just completely impressed, which we all were. I mean, the fact that he even invited us there, took the time to meet with us, but then his manner, his drive, his passion, his knowledge. I mean, we were firing questions at him left and right from all sorts of directions and topics, and he, you know, it was almost as if he was prepared somehow, you know, but he wasn't. You know, he just, all this stuff was coming off the top of his head. So it was quite, it made quite an impression on me, I have to say.
You're not easy to impress. I know that. One thing I wanted to ask is that I have a small team of people, and these are very difficult times for everyone. And I'm having a hard time keeping my spirits up and at the same time keeping them motivated. You're good at that, sir. What should we do? What should others do? Entrepreneurs, small business owners. What should we do?
Well, you know, from day one, Grid Markets has always been a virtual company. My co-founder, Hakeem, who you know well, and we met in Hong Kong. And so we worked together in Hong Kong, but only for a brief period of time. And then he went off to Kuala Lumpur and I went off to Singapore, and we started hiring people based on their skills, not based on their location. And so very quickly, the company was geographically dispersed. And we had to come up with ways to make that work, because we were doing something that was very sophisticated, and we needed people with the skills who could address those complications and challenges. And we had to compromise on where they may physically be in the world. And so for us, this COVID experience is nothing new, nothing different in terms of the impact it's had on remote teams. And for us, you know, we're accustomed to it, but also we've done things deliberately to make this configuration work. All of our tools are cloud-based. So everything that we do, everyone has access to it instantaneously. I mean, there's the obvious things like Google Sheets, where you can create and collaborate on something with your colleague, but all of our systems, our CRM system, our accounting systems, everything is in the cloud. So there's no traditional architecture being used at all. But that's only part of it. The other part is communicating, and we have made it a habit of over communicating. Because when you have people who are in remote locations, you know, it's easy for them to become disconnected and maybe dispassionate, easy for them to perhaps lose the direction of the company. So we have regular virtual meetings like we're having now, where it's all hands. This is particularly challenging for us because we have people in every part of the world. You know, it's a small team, but we cover many time zones. So it's a big commitment on everyone's part to get up. In most cases, I'm the one who takes the very early morning shift, San Francisco time. Oh, yes. But you know, there's 13 hours difference between myself and Hakeem, the co-founder.
Yeah, I recall. I don't know if you recall too, but once we were on a meeting, and there were so many people on that call from different geographies, and all of a sudden, this guy was talking and he stopped talking, and then you said, "Are you on mute or something?" Then he went, "No, I'm in Japan, and an earthquake just hit us."
Oh yeah, yeah.
You recall that? So that's, and you were so good at bringing people together regularly. Like whatever happens, that weekly meeting has to happen.
Yeah. No, and for instance, it's hard enough to do that when you're physically together. But it's, you know, but the pressure to do that and the challenge to do that is even greater when you're not together. But as it turns out, I find it to be, I don't think frankly, I think the remote model is superior if you employ certain techniques. Because, for example, when you're physically together, you can have a conversation with somebody, but then you'd have to have that conversation with everybody in your team in order for everybody to get it. Alternatively, you just write that same thing in a Slack channel that everyone has access to that pertains to a particular topic, and it's published and everyone can see it. So people might not read it, but that's not because you haven't communicated it. So, you know, in that sense, it really facilitates some of those challenges that you have when you are physically together, and makes them easier to manage.